So tonight we're going to be looking at doing some support work that didn't expect. This model's from Estudio's Neo Kingdom's Citizens Kickstarter project. Now you can't see it all that well, but it actually had where it didn't fail by the sword; it failed by the foot somehow. So we're going to be reinforcing the supports on that. The sword, unfortunately, has where the hilt is extremely thin. So that's going to actually end up snapping off. And the problem with that is, as a seller, I can't modify the file in any way except scaling the model or fixing the supports, actually doing the support work needed. So we're going to fix her foot here. I had a model from Neo Kingdoms Volume 2 giving me a little bit of an issue. The first time I printed it, the right leg had issues. So I tried it on a different printer and left leg had serious issues. I already actually did the support work for that though. It was just as simple as add a couple of supports, and I've got that test printing now. Kind of way I'd actually have just cut the leg off the one and put it on the other, you'd have a good model. But yeah, no, that's cheating. We got to fix that crap. So let's pop it into Lychee, check it out. And then on top of that, it turned out that I had one file from Neo Kingdoms Volume 1 that I didn't print or anything because I didn't have the pre-supported file. Forgot all about it. The freebie Dalila. So after we fix this one, we're going to take and fix that. So let's get rid of this webcam and bring up Lychee, because in all honesty, you aren't going to see there we go. And let's start some music up in all honesty, because I actually have where I'm feeling offspring. As soon as, yeah, it worked for once right off the bat. Okay, so in all honesty, one thing that I like to do right off the bat, if I do have to edit, is change the raft type. The reason being is this raft type, I use flexible plates, BQ plates. That way I can actually just pop the models off of the build plate easily without having to actually get out anything, almost working out like a chisel. And with this, we want to swap that, go into raft, select that. I prefer the shape wall. The reason I prefer the shape wall, number one, is thanks to this raised lip that helps reinforce it so the raft itself doesn't flex with the build plate when I go to pop it off. Instead, it tends to stay straighter. This also helps with it possibly shifting the supports around some. Not to mention, on top of that, it acts like a skirt. So, as the model prints, typically what ends up happening is your resin will actually just go down these supports and down the model and still encapsulate it. Especially what's dripping off of the build plate. With the shape wall, however, thanks to the contour that you see below the support here that's actually flashing around, any resin that wants to drip off of the build plate, instead will hit that shape wall and drip around the model. It's not going to drip back down onto the model. Kind of like funneling oil down. If you actually have an issue getting oil into something, you can actually use string as a lead, string or wire, and the oil would go down that line, go down the wire. So now that we got our shape wall put in place, this is actually also called a skate, depending on the program you use. Under any Cubic Photons programs, it's marked as an actual skate instead. So one thing I do see that I actually don't care for is the sword here. To me, it's more like a gun sword than an actual sword. We're going to eliminate, because there's actually 5 support towers going up. We're going to eliminate 2 of them. But we're going to take and actually add those to a couple of adjacent ones. That way it doesn't mess with the contact point. The contact point stays the same. But that doesn't make just one thick piece. Because what happens with this thing, whenever I actually go to remove it from the supports, is as thin as the hilt is here, these supports don't want to leave go. And that's kind of how it snapped off when I was removing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here. If you see, it's moving around, but it's not wanting to connect to the other support. However, if we hold down on the Alt button, it then does. So we're going to do the same with this one. Left click it, hit Alt, and do that. Now, it's still going to keep the same direction, but it means that these are going to flex more. I mean, they've got where they have barely any spacing in between them. Actually make that they have no spacing between them. Left click. So what we're going to do is that. Now we're going to take and move this one back. Put it back upright. And since we did that, we're going to actually Alt, then left click there. So that'll be good there. Now, okay, I see a problem here. The model isn't tilted in any way, shape, or form. So what this actually does is it puts extra pull on the bottom of the model. I mean, ideally with her cape the way it is, and with the hair the way it is, I normally don't recommend tilting the model forward, because then that might put any type of pucker marks from the support on the front of the model. But in this case, they did that. I'm not going to resupport the whole model because the fact of the supports did good. These supports actually worked out except for the sword and that one foot. And I see why now on that one though, because you can actually see they only have one support on the left foot there, whereas the right foot, it's got 2. So we're just going to actually have fun with it. And all we really needed to do was actually add the one probably to the tip of the foot. But we're just going to go ahead and actually add the other. Because in all honesty, looking at the model itself, the right foot does need one at the tip as well. Now, this is one pet peeve I have also, is I'm not a fan of combat heals. These make 0 sense to me on a wargaming model, RPG model, any type of model for that factor. If it's meant to be like a combat model like this, even if, say, for instance, I enlarge it to the point where it's a statuette, A recommendation I have for people is to more or less turn those into platform heels, basically. And this gap in between the base of the shoe and the heel here, fill that in. But not enough that it actually doesn't look like that's there. Just more than enough so there's an extra contact point to reinforce this heel. But that aside, we're going to slap one more there. And we're just going to call it a day with this model. See how it turns out. Whenever I go to rename it, we're going to actually hit. Okay, so that's not the file that we want. And I'm glad that that's not showing that. I was hoping it wouldn't do that. Hallelujah. So one thing I never recommend is overwriting the support file they give you. Never do that. Make a new support file. That way, if you mess it up worse, you can just reload theirs and go start from scratch. Start from scratch again with that. It saves you a lot of time, headache, and grief that way. So instead, I like to just throw the word modded behind it if it's a pre-supported model. That way I don't have that issue. Okay. So that's saved like that now. Now the next thing is you're going to want to actually export the model as well. Do not forget to do that. So you're going to go to export selection, and of course it'd do that. Put me back what I want to be. So this will be the test print tomorrow morning. In all honesty, they do good detail with their models. I give them that. I'm not a fan of the overkill fan service all the time. Not a fan of the chunkier models. And by that, I'm not talking body chunky. I mean, in general. But when it comes to wargaming models, that's what you want. Because that extra little bit of chunk sometimes helps out. So if, say, for instance, the model takes a tumble, it doesn't break as easily. It kind of reminds me more of, like, the early 2000 wargaming models. They had where they weren't as chunky as the 80s models and the 90s models. They had more human definitions than what the earlier wargaming models had. So we're going to get this out of here. Objective 1. Simple enough. Next up, we're going to load up Dalila and work with her. And then after that, we're going to go back to Mads Minis, the Vidatum models I was working on. Because they actually had where I got the scale off the first time. I made it too small. The second time I decided, hey, I'll just support it at their scale. And it stands bigger, actually taller than what a lot of models normally do. So I need to fix that scale there. And once I get the scale right, then support it a third time. However, I then know the percentage to actually knock all of their models down whenever I actually go to support any of their other models. That's one advantage you have when you're working with a sculpting team. If they stick to their scale, don't make them adjust their scale. Instead, adjust it yourself. I mean, if they give you the light sheet files, that helps out a lot. Because then you can actually just take and load up the light sheet file, adjust the scale of the model, and it keeps all the support's contact points intact. You just have to move the uprights around then at that point. So, okay, I need to get rid of you. We're gonna load up Dalila. Dalila, one piece. And not one piece as in go bugger off. One piece as in it's not de-pieced in like 5 or 6 pieces to print out at like a statuette like 12 inches tall. Just dawned on me, why do people say 12 inches instead of 1 foot whenever it comes to that? I'm now. I have just perplexed myself. Cool. So the first thing I'm doing is actually checking out to make sure there's no voids in it. If anything, actually, if I was smart, I'd actually have added 3D Builder to the list. Window capture. 3D Builder. Are you going to work? Really? You're not going to work for me? You little bloody... Why? OBS, I thought we fixed this. Old broken Shiza. Okay, so that's not wanting to work. Okay, it's not that. Maybe it's that. It's not that. Okay, so we're going to do something I know we don't do. Where are you? Okay. I really, really, really hate this mayhem. Display capture. Lower monitor twit. Work. Okay. So that is not going to work. I've got nothing bad going at the bottom, but I need to actually modify that some. So you're going to see the bottom momentarily and transform. Crop bottom. We need to crop that bottom and get rid of the... You do not know what was down there. That works. That works. Okay, yeah, I'll fix that in a second. Okay, we're going to move you to the bottom level now. Jackpot. That works. And we're going to lock you in place. Why? Because the fact of I don't need that doing that again. Okay, so as you can see, I actually loaded her up in a 3D builder. So we're going to hit import model. And right off the bat, I don't see any types of voids. But it's showing there's some type of an error. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead, select it, find out, hey, what's going on with it. And one of the things I'd like to do, because I'm a little nosy, is check out, hit edit, simplify. That way I can actually see the mesh as well as the amount of faces. So the face number beforehand is 500,106 faces. We're going to hit cancel because that's just me being nosy. And hit repair, but you can't see it doing below hand. We'll fix that in a second. Come on. So as you can see, it's auto repairing. In fact, I'll actually bring that back and backtrack it so you all can see that. We'll X that out. And now it's not doing it. Okay. Otro momento. So we're just going to reload it because I screwed up on... Nope. Okay, so, yeah. Nothing bad there. Nothing really got exposed on that one. That works. I keep nothing on that desktop anyways. I swear I know what I'm doing. Okay, so back at this again. This is the error message I was telling you about. One or more objects are invalidly defined. Click here to repair. So in order to repair this, the auto repair doesn't always work. It depends on what the problem is. Say for instance, if there's a hole in the mesh, there's at points in times where it won't pick up the holes in the mesh. C'est la vie. You can't expect it to work all the time. While I'm thinking about it, I forgot to clear that out. So, it doesn't look like it actually did anything. We're going to go ahead and go into edit and see. It's the same amount of faces. So I don't know what it did, but it did something. So we're going to go ahead and actually just save it as is. That way it doesn't do that. And I'm going to actually be smart this time and remember to hide this beforehand because we don't need that anymore. Because now that it's saved, we're just going to exit out. And we're going to actually open back up Lychee. This time around, we're just going to actually hit open with Lychee. Don't forget to hydrate. And I keep on trying to hit update and restart and it won't do it. We're just going to ignore that. You're going to see the pop-up that plain and simple, go bugger off. I'm not paying a monthly subscription fee. In fact, we're going to hide that just for a second to make sure it doesn't expose anything. Okay. Lovely. It didn't give me any type of spam or anything like that. Didn't say, hey, do you want to? No, I don't want to upgrade. I don't want to subscribe. I don't want to just leave me do my thing. So, since this model was included as a freebie, but it wasn't supported or anything, what we want to do is check out the scale first. Because this one, I'm not sure. I didn't check the scale when I was actually in 3D Builder. So, it's plain and simple. On this one, we're going to actually start out with scale down here. It should be fine the way it looks. It should be, but for some odd reason, uniform scaling. Okay, it doesn't look like it's actually doing. Yeah, no, it's not. Even though uniform scaling is turned on. Okay. So, what am I going to tell yet again? I want to double check that thing's scale beforehand. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring back Dalila one piece in 3D Builder. And we're going to load another one of the models they have next to it, as well as I've got a 3D sculpted base that I actually did myself and added magnet holes to the bottom. We're going to put that underneath to make sure that it will actually fit on a 25mm/23mm top base. Because your average bases that are 25mm wide, that little ledge drops 1mm off on each side. If I remember, it's 24mm on the top. Okay, so after I actually get it loaded up, get the other files loaded up, then we'll actually go from there. Okay, insert, add. Part of the problem is I actually mess with way too many files. Okay, so we're going to use a different model that I actually keep on hand for scaling purposes. This one's by Unit 9. Silas Red Edger. It's going to take a while to load. Okay, so the height actually looks good enough. Now I can say this one, it's... Yeah, it's starting to want to scream at me already. It's... It's kind of choppy. So, this one is actually the scale comparison bit that I was actually talking about. You get another model that you know the scale of, you want to make sure it's actually the right height and everything. So, it matches up. The scale matches up. I can get rid of Silas. I love detailed models. Now this is the next thing I was actually talking about, is making sure the stance actually fits on a base. This base has where I like to actually 3D print it upside down on a textured build plate. As you see, yeah. This is more of a precautionary thing, because I hate to do supports for a model and then find out that's the wrong scale. Kind of like them when I've actually had support for the third time tonight. Because, well, not really support, but rescale. So, we know she's fine. I didn't want to delete both of them. I just wanted to delete her. Because what I wanted to show was, this is what I was actually talking about with magnet holes. I actually sculpted your generic base like people actually have for wargaming, and added 2 magnet holes in the bottom of it. We'll get into that in a different video, but this way, depending on the weight of the model, 2 magnets should be more than enough. So, with that said, we're just going to discard scene, that way it doesn't mess with it. Scheiße. Okay. This is not working out. Yeah. This file's going to get scrapped. Or figure out how to edit it. I didn't expect that on that one. Anywho, that aside, go back to open with Lychee. I need to just make sure there's... Oh. Yeah, kids, make sure not to imitate wrestlers. Brother Tombstone me in the basement missing his bed, and the flat of my neck, yeah, where the base of it actually meets the back, hit the concrete first. Yeah, now my neck wants to actually pop and crap whenever I turn it to the right a lot of times. That stings. It's been like that since the 8th grade. Kind of what kept me from the military and couldn't do wrestling in high school. That would have been stress relief. So, back at that. I don't know why I have this one on and just adding blue light in my face. Get out of here. Go. Shoo. I forgot about that one. I'm just sitting here tolerating it and tolerating it. And hey! Okay, so... just like with what I was talking about with the other... I wouldn't want to print the model standing upright. Because as you can see, there's actually a lot of yellow on the underside. We're going to tilt her slightly forward. That way we aren't going to have as much issues with these greaves, or not greaves, but the blades on our gauntlets, whatever you want to call them. Yes, my medieval history is failing me. I cannot help that. Okay, so, that being said, We know the scale is right. We're going to go into rotate. And what we want to do is we want to rotate this around some so that it'll actually print out better. Or not print out better, but print out easier. Now there is actually a way to print models or to sculpt them so they're support free. But I'm not a 3D sculptor. However, a 3D sculptor actually made an article in the past on pin shape, to which I have brain farting for a guy's name. He actually explained how to do that. Sadly, pin shape has changed hands, I think, 2 times since then. So, I'll have to actually look up the article again. But we tilted it aside, that way it should make it easier on the sword to print. I really need to sleep better. So we don't want the sword to print out upright. But turning it like this, as you can see, the knuckles should print easier as well. The knuckles and the fingers should print out easier as well. So I'm not a fan of doing it this way. I'd rather do it the other way. But I'm not a fan of these blastage, the blades on her. Okay. I think that position might work out better. Because what will happen also, I mean, I won't have to encapsulate her to support these the backs of the pauldrons. At least I want this one pauldron. Because the one pauldron, they accidentally cut the sword into the pauldron to it. The other one is a different story. Okay. Actually, I'm not a fan of that leg like that. So just tilt it slightly there. Now we don't have as much yellow on the leg there. Okay. So prepare. First off, we're going to go ahead and hit the shape wall real quick. And that does exactly like I said. It makes an outline around the model. That way, while it's printing, any excess resin that's on the build plate is going to hit the sides of the shape wall and drip around the model, not on it. You actually save resin that way as well. I don't know why it is. I keep trying to explain that to people, and I don't want that one. Never heard this one before either. So, what we're going to do is this time around, we are going to cheat. And yes, we're going to hit generate automatic supports just to see what it does. Because in all honesty, compared to what people think, the auto supports has gotten better over the years. I experimented with it. I'm surprised on it. But at the same time, it's still not a perfect... Yeah, auto support doesn't equal auto success still. Okay, so 49 supports were added. 13 supports were not placed due to not finding a place to go. 38 Allen supports added. 0 Allen supports were not placed due to not finding a place to go. 40 supports optimized. 165 bracings added. I don't know what it means by optimized. I wish it would actually point out where the supports were not placed, that would be nice. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. Now, as stated, it's not going to be perfect right off the bat, especially because of the fact of this should not be reaching across like that. I can tell you this one, that right there is an auto fail. Because what's going to happen is this support's going to shake around a lot. It needs some type of an actual bracing to it to keep it from shaking. Otherwise, what's going to happen is as the vacuum of this model is pulling off the FEP sheet, there's a good chance it's going to actually just pull off of that support, since that support's going to vibrate. Okay. So problem I just noticed. Where did they move the remove supports? We'll still work with it as is. Oh. Duh. Right click and undo auto support. Okay. Now that that's been sorted out, my apologies. So okay, for one thing, it's bad. Delete that. It should have picked the model up some. So there we go. We just want to rotate, lift up, good to go. Now we can get back to the support work. Okay, starting out the tips of the shoes. Now we want to follow that white line, so that's going to show us actually the literal starting point. Again with combat heels. I mean, I'm literally not a fan of combat heels and stuff. It makes zero sense to me. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to swap to light. Okay, these, since they're so far down low, we're not going to worry about them needing any bracings. Okay. On second thought, we are going to do that. I'm pretty fly for a white guy. Okay, it's been so long since I'd heard this song. I'm actually glad. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, cinco, seis. Please don't remove me. My apologies. Just love Spring. Six. Okay, that just looks silly. And time to play Spider. Okay, we want to do that one with a heavy. Next up is going to be a bit of a pain in the rear end. Do that, swap back to the light. Real. So now that we've worked our way up, time to start with the freaking coach. Actually, I don't even know what the heck you call it. Looks like it's part of a gown that she just ripped off. Okay. So we want to swap these to heavies. Let's... Okay. Oh. 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 Okay, I really need to actually make a BRB scene. So, guess that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow morning at some point. I'm going to go back to lights now. At this point, the model should actually have enough.
Hydrate, you fool!
Crap! Evening, Jimmy. Okay. And taken. I'm on it. I'm on it. Evening. Congratulations, I think you're the first one to actually use that. Oh. So by the way, welcome to the mayhem that I do with. More or less, anytime someone wants to 3D print models, they have to actually take and load it into a slicer program. And then you actually have to add these little supports left and right to the model. That way it'll print out. You can actually use auto supports with it. It doesn't always work though. If anything, I actually already tried that tonight, and yeah, it was not going to print that way. And it's kind of a cool model. I'm actually got where I'm annoyed with the amount of sculptors out there that are the way they are. But at the same time, c'est la vie. And that is going right in through two different ones. We might as well have that one just connected to the other. So how's it going tonight? And did you get your page back thinking about it? Has Twitch freed you? Or is your actual profile still having hiccups? That's what's going on here. So we want to drag this around. Nope. You'd actually laugh. Believe it or not, if someone's got a VTuber model and they load it into Blender, they can actually make their model 3D printable if they do it right. Well, congrats on that one. Although they definitely set it to fail, so anyone that was worried about their stream streaks, they lost that. I was more concerned on the fact of, what the heck did I miss? And yeah, we're jamming out to Offspring tonight. I've got where on top of that, I'm sitting here adding to the list because I haven't listened to Offspring's stuff in ages to the point where I've never heard this song either. That's one thing I hate is, yes, I'm one of those that if I like a song, I'll start to jam to it some and actually sing it. And Twitch, don't get rid of me. Please don't mute the audio. I hate my luck on that. Well, I'm thinking about it. Are the volume levels alright for you? And also, in case you're wondering what I'm doing on this one, that white line you see going up and down the model, yeah, that one was playing earlier. It's an old one, but a good one. That white line is more or less where you'll actually, where the build plate's at. So the slider bar on here actually shows what it'll look like when it's coming out of the resin printer. And that's what's with that white bar that goes across the model. Personally, it's handy this way that we can actually see if there's something that's not going to print that's actually being missed. Like on top of that right there, that did help because I didn't notice this. Bink. I mean, this is actually a faster way some people actually do to do the support work. I don't prefer it because to me, that looks weird. I've never expected to have to support where someone lopped off its body. Oh, it needs the actual support everywhere. But yeah, this little bit of yellow here, though, that's not all that bad. But if anything, it's going to get it in the front anyways leading up to it. Because the fact of there's way too many times where I've seen them actually just pull right off the supports. It's like, in all honesty, the knee here wasn't as bad as, ma'am, those calves are stronger than you'd expect. Let's go for that. And thinking about it, I need to play Spider Twit real quick before I bury those supports. You can actually hold down the Alt button and left click a support, and these actually add what they call bracings. That keeps the uprights from shifting around as it's printing. A lot of people forget to do them, or they don't care for them. But I've had way too many times where a model would fail, and all they needed to do was add those bracings. At the same time, I kind of feel like a spider whenever I do that. I like to actually have them mash up the contact points where they're going. And thinking about it, I see that one little detail right there. Okay, as handy as that is, we're going to get rid of that and just show off the whole model. Because I don't know about you, to me it looks creepy like, hey guys, why did we take the, put the body back? Why did we remove the legs? Excuse me. Okay, gotta get that. And this is gonna be a lot of... We're gonna change this over. That's a light. We're gonna swap that to a heavy. Now we're gonna go back to light. Okay. Don't mind this one, but it doesn't have the same feel that Offspring normally gives me. Kind of like their faster songs. Jackpot. And we're going to tie that one in. No. Unfortunately, I mean, I've seen people using this, basically putting it through like a Ninja blender, and then using it as filler if they do recasting. They'll actually mix it in with their resin mix. That way, actually, it'll eat up a good bit of the space, so they won't need as much material that way. But I'm not a fan of doing that because then you actually have a mixed material object to the point where, depending on what it is, if this stuff is weaker than the resin you're using, it's just going to make it so it's going to be brittle. It's going to actually break it's going to break easier. I mean, I've seen people doing weird things with it though. Uh, right now, what I'm waiting on to see is if any of them ever copy, because this is with resin. This isn't for an FDM printer. The FDM printer, that's actually the type that uses what looks like a weed eater line. With that, you can actually reuse that. But with the resin, this stuff, you can't really like melt it down like you can the FDM material. With FDM, they have a new type or a new filament type that's weird, that actually dissolves in the water, kind of like the older little prize toys you could get where you didn't know what it was. You dropped it into the water, and the stuff would dissolve around it, and then show what it is. I'm waiting to see if they make a resin like that, because if they do, it would make removing these actually that much easier. Someone did recently make, if you know anyone that does FDM printing, someone actually did make an open source kit recently, so you can recycle the filament yourself. If anything, if you want, you can even take and recycle, say for instance, you actually have like a whole boatload of failed prints. You can put your failed prints through a shredder and grind them down small enough that you can actually put them through the extruder hot end to turn into filament again as well. Not just the support material. I'm not really big on the whole color 3D printing mayhem that people are going through, where they like to actually print in different colors, because that's a waste of material to me. What happens with those is it actually, when it does a color change, it has to purge the old color out some. And it doesn't really. They could actually edit the code, so instead it would do the color change inside of the model, and then never actually have that waste. But I've been doing FDM printing for 11 years now. Oh, too many years with that mayhem. 11 years FDM, 6 years with resin, because I started resin printing back in 2019. I'm about to rework the shop again, actually. I just recently redid the shop. But yeah, I've got 5 older printers that 2 of them I'd like to actually bring back to use. The older ones I'm not going to break back out. Those I'm just trying to actually do, more or less give them away to someone that wants to start resin printing. But not many want to do that hurdle. The actual fumes aren't that bad to resin anymore, actually. It's still bad where you're not supposed to breathe them in. But in the past, I'd swear I'd rather actually inhale, breathe in burning car tires than the way that resin used to smell. That's how bad the resin used to be. Okay, we need an in-between. And yeah, my ruin's too cheap to actually pay for Spotify Premium. I mean, I wouldn't really call it too cheap because they still get their money off of it, and the ads don't get saved in the VODs. And on top of that, the less money I save on stuff that copyrights have run out ages ago. Okay, at one point in time, I tried to do a print shop. And what ended up happening was, in order to keep up, you need to actually have more printers, have more printers. I never got that big, though. And on top of that, also, sometimes you have planned obsolescence where, like, say, for instance, you can't find the older one's screens, or the resolution is actually that much worse that you're better off upgrading. I don't upgrade every year because they release a new printer every year, kind of like cell phones. I don't upgrade every year. I actually recommend skipping like every 3 years. Because on top of that, if you do it that way, you can get the previous model for a third of the price as what the brand new one is. I mean, it literally is like buying a new cell phone time after time. I don't know why some people are like that, where, like the ones that have an obsession where they have to have the newest iPhone or the newest Samsung every year. If anything, Samsung had where they were trying to sell me yet again to get another, and I had to actually upgrade from my S20 Ultra to an S24 Ultra. But it turned out the S24 Ultra, they got rid of the 3D scanner feature that the S20 Ultra had. They also got rid of the micro SD card slot, so whatever memory space it has on the phone, you're stuck with. Exactly. I've got where it's either when the phone breaks, or plain and simple, it's time to actually upgrade. And even then, that's also providing that someone hasn't given me another phone. It's like, in all honesty, I've only ever bought one iPhone, and that was the iPhone 3GS. I had someone give me their iPhone 4, whenever like the iPhone 6 or whatever was out. I think it was a 5 or a 6, I can't remember. My uncle got an obsession with iPhones. He got an iPhone 7. He actually has where he's less brain cells than what he actually needs. And he decided he wanted to upgrade to an 8. Gave me a 7. Then wanted to upgrade again, eventually gave me his 8. Yeah, I'm not a fan of iPhones either. With iPhones, the number one thing I hate is you can actually, with an Android phone, get a USB adapter. And that takes it from USB to USB-C. And plug a jump drive right into your phone to add external storage temporarily. I don't know if you've ever done that or not. But it makes it so much easier to me to actually clear the hard drive on the phone if it doesn't have a micro SD card slot. I mean, one thing I hate is also, I found out the S24 Ultra has a bug to it. Well, it's a bug to me, it's a feature to them. Where once it gets too far full, it's just been deleting files that it sees as real old. No. Now, if it would do that to like a double of a file or like an older app, I'd like it to actually just ask, hey, can I delete this? But I found out the hard way, it's been doing that to pictures I took. I hate that crap. What one looks at as a feature, no. To me, no. That's not to mention also the whole bit about it actually has an AI to it that will organize your pictures for you based on what it is. I don't like the fact of that because the fact of it makes me question how does it know what it is, and are they leaking those pictures, technically sorting through them back to the manufacturers? I'm not kosher with that. To me, that's actually a gap where that's almost as bad as whenever they actually just automatically feed your text messages. But let's face it, it really, there's no way you're not being spied on nowadays. When it comes to digital technology, it just happens all the time. Okay, so putting that one there helps out because now that gives us a point to be able to actually do this. So people call this a support tree. What it is you have one and you just use it to actually go to another spot where you normally wouldn't be able to get an upright to. It's like that'll actually help it so the film will now print on there. Now my problem here is I'm not going to be able to do that with the middle finger, ring finger, and index finger, but then we just go to there, it'll add the mini supports for me. Okay, and sometimes you have to reorient it. Because that, I'm not fine with that. Okay, I'm the only one that calls this mayhem a spider. These are actually bracings. These are bracings that goes from one support to another. They call these supports. But when they do this where they actually use one and have just multiple come from one, that's actually a support tree. And those two are so close it's not funny. Okay, is there something else? No, there's nothing else back there that actually... Okay, we're going to delete that one and just move it over slightly. Because those two colliding... Okay. Yeah. In all honesty, whenever I actually do this mayhem, the Spider Pig bit from the Simpsons movie comes to mind instead. Instead of Spider-Man, it's Spider Pig. Spider Pig. Okay. Before we do that, we can actually do one. Uh-huh. Found it. And that doesn't need to be a heavy, that just needs to be a light. In fact, we're going to delete you. If anything, never heard it. I've got where I can't keep up with subtitles anymore to the point where I even hate whenever I actually have to watch subtitled anime. Uh, there was an old series I liked as a kid called Samurai Troopers slash Ronin Warriors. Well, the reboot era, they brought it back, but it's only in Japanese with subtitles. I can't read that fast anymore to the point where I'm sitting here constantly pausing to be able to. Okay, what did he just say? I'm behind on my subtitle game. Well, in all honesty, it's. If I'm not streaming when I'm doing stuff like this, typically I have someone else's Twitch streaming going while I've got an anime going as well. That way I can keep up with stuff. It's like on top of that, that way I can actually rewatch stuff in the past if I don't have anything new to watch. It's like right now, thanks to that show coming back, I've got an itch to rewatch the original series. Because they changed the names and stuff to the characters. And on top of that, I've got where I wouldn't want anyone's kid to see the new series. The old series was kid friendly. This new one, I think there's more blood and guts in it, even in Ren and Stimpy. And I guess I should save that, because it's screaming at me that I need to save. It has been a while. And thankfully it's actually there. Okay, so I need to bounce this up. If you're able to hear that popping, my apologies. What the hell? Yeah. I mean, it's... If you remember the whole Don Quixote mayhem in the past, I think they do it intentionally. Because what they're doing is they're changing these series around that didn't have an ending to them so far off the original that it's... They can't say it's the same thing. Just like they actually redid Kashan, they redid as Kashurn. That series, I didn't care for the remake. If anything, the original was just a movie. Devilman, they made one called Devilman Crybaby. Anyone that's seen the original Devilman wouldn't be a fan of the new series. It's... Don't get me wrong, the animators did good work, but it literally feels like Don Quixote, but not written by the original author. I mean, that's why the original author eventually actually revisited Don Quixote and finished him off, actually killing him. And even put in the end of the story that, hey, all work beyond this is fiction. Automod, quit being a pain. I don't know why it actually flagged Crybaby. I think Automod's the real Crybaby in that case. I've actually got my Automod turned up because every now and then I'll get bots coming in through here trying to actually advertise a site or whatever, and on one hand it annoys me, on the other hand it's crap, people are watching to the point where they actually just slid a bot in? Okay. Yeah, like I said, don't get me wrong. Devilman Crybaby had some spots in it that weren't bad, but the storyline difference between the two just kind of kills me. I mean, it's like whenever they actually brought back Voltron, they actually made a Voltron series that was a continuation of the older one. But they changed. Yeah, they turned a couple of the characters gay. And on top of that, the voice actor, if I remember, it was the voice actor for Lance, was the same one that did Sokka. Sokka still doesn't get the girl because in that Voltron series, the princess actually has where I forget what happens, but basically she's not even on the same plane of existence anymore. And it's okay, it's the moon goddess all over again. The man just can't get a win easily. Separated. Well, it's confusing in my case because I actually had where I've seen both series. Okay. So what we'll do is. I thought it was going to do that. Just join it. Join it. Sorry. Okay, and are you... Okay, it's not too close. Excellent. And in all honesty, a lot of these series also actually sit here and watch. That way, I've got a nephew that's like 9 years old now. I can actually watch something in advance before he sees it. That way, if it's something that's going to actually scare him or anything, it's a, okay, yeah, no, do not leave him watch that. Not that my brother's ex-wife actually listens, but yeah, she can't say anything. Because I didn't watch anime around him. That way, he didn't actually watch the same things I did. In all honesty, I don't have anything against anime, really. Because the first time I watched anime, I was actually 8 years old. It was an animated movie by the name of Vampire Hunter D. Yeah, Sci-Fi Channel used to actually have what they called Saturday Anime. That's how I got hooked on anime. On one hand, everyone else was sitting here watching Looney Tunes. On the other hand, my rear end was waking up at 6 a.m. to catch Saturday Anime. Yeah. I mean, really, another series I'd actually consider anime people wouldn't because, oh, it's made in America was technically to me, G.I. Joe to me feels like an actual anime compared to what people say. But that's because the fact of if you go off of the concept of life and death, it's like people call Crayon Shin-chan an anime because it was made in Japan. But Crayon Shin-chan has that same frying pan slapstick as Looney Tunes and Simpsons. Both of them, the concept of death isn't there. Well, Simpsons really isn't until they actually kill off a voice actor, but you know what I mean. That one's so close, might as well just do... Delete that. Yeah, Saturday Anime was kind of cool. You actually had Vampire Hunter, Lensman. I'd have to actually agree on that one, except the fact that I'm actually 42. I was born before Pokemon was actually out. Dragon Ball, I forget when it came out exactly, but I haven't been a fan of Dragon Ball since they actually decided to make Dragon Ball Super and then retcon it, saying that, hey, Dragon Ball GT isn't the actual ending to Dragon Ball. And then went back and then said it is. But that makes zero sense because Dragon Ball Super has gone so far beyond Dragon Ball GT. I I just concede with them. They just seen that the fan base was still there and wanted more, so they decided to actually do something about it and add to the storyline. And by the way, if any of the sound alerts come across as loud to you, leave me know. That Mayhem's actually my own actual voice. I've got where I didn't rip actual audio files off of people. To dodge that whole headache, I just went ahead and fought up my own. Used the webcam and mic to actually just record it and then rip the audio from the video file. A couple of them technically are copyright material in a sense, but parody laws are a thing. Cool. The one I still can't figure out how to do with Mix It Up is...
Oh, it ain't happening. I'm feeling glad I got sunshine. In a bag, I'm useless, but not for long. The future.
The one I can't figure
is
out with
coming
Mix It
on.
Up and others is how to keep people from redeeming first, second, and third. That's one I can't figure out. I've seen people do it in other streamers' streams also, though. Every now and then you'll have someone that decides instead of just taking like first or second, they'll redeem all three. So I'm not the only one. If anything, I kind of believe getting rid of the whole first, second, and third thing for that reason. But, yeah, some people like to actually have it. And I'm guilty of every now and then just going in to actually nab it. Just kind of a snarky, heh. If I know someone else actually constantly alerts the person's stream as well. That's only a couple of them streams, though. I see you there. She's got that same bit going on this side. With there, that one's at. We're just going to take and... put it the whole way out there? Oh. Daggone it, that hurt. Okay. I don't remember this song either, but that's getting added to the playlist. I'm sorry. Okay. I didn't realize that people would actually hear that. Yeah, my neck's been messed up since the 8th grade. Uh, I don't know if you're familiar with WWF wrestling, but there's actually a wrestler by the name of The Undertaker. He's got a move that he calls the Tombstone, where he actually more or less lifts them up upside down with their back towards his chest and slams them down. Well, my brother's bedroom was in the basement. Of course, it has a concrete floor. We were wrestling on his bed. He went to tombstone me, missed the bed. So the flat of the neck, where the neck joins the back, actually hit the concrete floor. And since then, my neck every now and then wants to lock up and just. Sorry. Pop when I turn it to the right. Yeah, I'm kind of a living jinx. I'm used to it, though. Hey, it kept me out of being able to go into the military. It's technically a pro and a con. Because of that, I'm actually the first. Unfortunately, my generation in that bloodline to not join the military. It kind of ticks me off, but at the same time, my brand would have been shipped off to Afghanistan. So it worked out for the better, I guess, in a sense. Well, I wouldn't call that working out for the better, but eh. I mean, it doesn't exactly help that literally. You know, we're just going to delete that and. Because looking at it. It's like my ruin has where if I actually put out my accident list of injuries I survived, it'd have me for questioning. Okay, look. Back then, we didn't even have dial-up internet. So, you had what was on TV, or you had to entertain yourselves. Yeah, the entertainment didn't work out. I mean, bro was 5 years older than me. To the point where I really can't say that much. And by the way, when you heard this one earlier, it was actually like an acoustic version. I don't know why they made an acoustic version of this. I think the only reason we're hearing acoustic versions being made of songs is that way they can actually revitalize the copyright before it's public domain and people get away with just copying it and not giving credit back. So say to a brand new thing. My baby. Everything, my baby. Seis, quatro, seis. Zero your way. Yeah, if anything, those models I've been painting, it annoys me, but it turns out I actually revisited their project. They didn't have this one supported in there. If anything, somehow I missed the file and they didn't even actually have the file in with the batch of models. I mean, they had it on their online store for $5. So I said the heck of it and actually just, yeah, instead of going after the sculptor, hey, here's the $5 as a tip. And it's okay. What he doesn't realize is after I support the thing, I'm going to give them the supported files. That way, anyone else gets that file, they're going to have it pre-supported instead of actually having to have someone else or having to do it themselves. I've actually been doing mayhem like that for people off and on for a while now. Yeah, if anything, I don't think I put all of the files, the ones I've painted recently in there, the ones from this project. I showed a picture of the weird Final Fantasy looking dragon, but the other models I was actually painting was for some type of a cyberpunk genre game by a group called Unit 9. That one's a known as drive me nuts. Is anytime I say cyberpunk, everyone thinks about that blasted game, and they don't think about the genre itself. Ew. Okay, and I really didn't pay attention to that. In all honesty, anytime I literally think about cyberpunk, I don't think about the Edge Runners anime. I think about a cyberpunk style anime from when I was a kid growing up called Bubblegum Crisis. I mean, if you want an unfun fact, Warhammer 40,000, the power armor concept from Warhammer 40,000 the Space Marines have. Initially, the concept was borrowed from the Starship Troopers novel from 1959. But the same year that 40K came out, the anime Bubblegum Crisis came out like 10 months beforehand. And it's like everyone sees the power armor in Space Marine, and I see those power armor from Bubblegum Crisis. It's actually not a bad anime series. They did make a continuation eventually of that, like, I think 14 years later, called Tokyo 2040. That thing, I loved. Yeah, it's actually a good series. Personally, one I dislike thinking about is the fact that this year it actually turns 38 literally in February. Yeah, that support is just not wanting to do what I want it to do. So I think what we're going to do is move this one. Jackpot. Yeah, it's like another cyberpunk genre anime I recommend to people if they like that type of thing is Appleseed. There's also the original Ghost in the Shell, not standalone complex. I mean, there's actually so many actually different ones out there, but yeah, like I said, literally anytime you say cyberpunk, the first thing to everyone's mind is the Edge Runners anime. Okay, we need to delete you. Yeah, I admit, this is actually the first Offspring Her song I actually ever heard. It was in a Sega Dreamcast game called Crazy Taxi. There for the longest time, everyone just referenced Crazy Taxi instead. Oh, you mean the Crazy Taxi song? See what I take. Oh, actually, I've been streaming. Oh, I streamed last night also painting miniatures. I've actually been streaming off and on every now and then. I think this is actually fourth time in the last week. I'm finally going back through and trying to actually, okay, maybe go for affiliate. I'm actually one follower off on that one. I'm at 24 out of 25. The hours I have, the days I have. Chatters, not so much either. But I hadn't really been worried about it, to be honest. Because I really don't plan on making this my thing. No, if anything, I don't delete the VODs. All I was doing last night was painting some of the miniatures today. Yeah, Kingdoms. Okay, never heard this song either. Daggone it. The playlist is getting filled up. In all honesty, I do and don't. Because my problem right now is there's something they call black model syndrome, basically where people primer miniatures and never paint them. Thanks to 3D printing, I've got an unlimited supply of models, and I don't have enough time to paint every last one of them. At this point in time, I literally have over 10,000 models I can print. I'm getting back to this mayhem because the fact of I actually have where you can get what they call merchant rights to be able to sell the 3D printed models. I get it. But you actually have where what people don't realize is you can actually go after what they call merchant rights to 3D print for the STL files. And that leaves you sell the 3D prints. No issues. Well, you have to follow their conditions, of course. I've got a thing where I'll just go online, I'll try and keep up with sculptors. If I see a batch of files is cheap enough, I'll just nab them. The libraries broke 3 terabytes. For like a couple of years before he died, my brother used to actually take and make the comments of he'd like to see them all in a store, physically in a store. And there was just no way. I'd actually be able to line this house probably with all the different models. But recently I got where I started working on an idea where, yeah, I'm going to be working with focusing on printing out the models I can sell and not every model I have access to. Because there's some sculptors that I like their work, but I go after lifetime licenses. That way it's just a one and done. They don't do that. They want a monthly fee. And I had a case that got weird where one sculptor I know passed when he was only 24 years old thanks to a surfing accident. And with him I lucked out in a sense, and I didn't luck out. Because he did a Kickstarter that had lifetime rights to certain files. He also had a Patreon, but after he passed, his parents wanted that Patreon cut off, and you couldn't sell those 3D prints anymore. The ones that you actually had lifetime rights to, you could. Yeah, if anything, he was an alright guy. I mean, it's just we never know what's going to happen to us, and literally, surfing apparently was his thing. No one knew right offhand because, even his close friends didn't know that he did 3D sculpting for income. He wasn't based in America. I forget what country he was based in. But basically, with the currency difference, the amount of money he was making in American dollars, he was actually able to live easily. And eventually something happened, and his friend caught wind of it and got a hold of the guy that was doing the support work for him. And that's how they found out about the files. And his parents actually requested that, hey, we're going to remove the Patreon. Because it would have just been hard for them to actually just see his work all the time. And they didn't want the extra income sitting there. Because it would be a pain in the rear end on their taxes, most likely, if their country had... I don't know how all the countries work. But after that, I just looked at the monthly licenses and got rid of all my monthly licenses. Because I'd rather not go round two with that. I mean, every now and then I'll actually reach out to sculptors, and once a blue moon, they'll make deals anyways. Not just for me, but also for other merchants. Thanks to that one, I actually mentioned to the sculptors, hey, have a clause in there so if the unfortunate happens, whoever has merchant rights at the end of your Patreon can still sell the 3D prints. Getting files through Patrons, it's typically like $10, $15 a month, and the amount of models you get is nuts. There's a real good sculptor by the name of Crosslances. Every now and then he even actually does his own print and play board games and war games and stuff. His Patreon fee, it's only like $6. But that's because the fact that I forget what country he's based in, he gets so much from it that he doesn't mind it being that low. Yeah. I mean, with him, it's typically $1 per model. Because he's a guy where he does about 6 models a month. But for that $6, he also enables you to be able to sell the 3D prints as well. And it's not just the ones for that month. It's actually the 3D prints from his patrons. Every now and then he does like to troll other companies. It's like, since the Disney princesses technically are public domain... Yeah, he actually did one for a fantasy football game they just called Princesses Got Angry. And it's funny to see how far people go sometimes with parody laws. No. As long as they don't mess with the anime. Or mess with the original storyline in general. I didn't want to add basing to you. Now, I'm getting where people don't realize this one, but I actually have where I lift as cheap as I do. That way I can support like sculptors and streamers more. Uh, I've got like 5 Patreons I'm subscribed to because the deal is typically that good. And if I can use the models in more games than just the games everyone's playing, all the better. It's like there's an open model game system called Stargrave. That's what I'm going to probably end up using a lot of these models in. Well, that and also the same sculpting team that did these models actually did some werewolves. There's a newer game that's called Forgotten Ruin, the adventure war game. That one's weird because it's got... It's kind of like your typical D&D setup, some at least with a level system. You can spend the experience for one thing that they actually call transformation. Because it's basically like 9 members of an Navy SEAL team or whatever get dropped in a fantasy realm. As they gain experience, you can actually transform them. And you roll a dice onto a chart and it tells you what they transform to. One of the things they can do is transform into a werewolf. They can transform into lizard people, fantasy classes like wizards and archers. And it's weird because you can actually do that in the middle of a fight even. So you can have one guy about to die and roll on the dice and he might become a minotaur. So having the actual model options is nice. And that's why it drives me nuts. Anytime I actually have people want to say about Warhammer 40,000, it's there's so many other options. Yeah, I've had people actually asking if I were contemplating doing like a war game or a board game stream, but although I have space in the house, I just don't have the setup to do that yet. I've been trying to actually figure out how to do an actual good overhead setup to do it with, but it's just not winning on it. Okay, that should be fine there. That is not fine. Okay, bad spot, but I see an island I didn't want to expect to support. My apologies, ma'am. That needs support there. Okay, we can sneak this one onto there. Haha. And that did what I hoped it would. Because now we can take and... Actually, I don't need to. Okay, heavy. I'm not a fan of doing it like that, but no option there. Because I really don't like whenever it does... Actually, come on. Quit being a... Quit being a bee. Jackpot. Now that just looks silly. So what I'm trying to do is to actually get it so it's back here. Jackpot. Thank you. Well, mine is really, it should have done a mini support, but it's not wanting to do a mini support. Instead, it's wanting to actually do a massive support. Okay, so be right back. Lost track of time, and I'm actually gonna check on Dad and say goodnight to him. Man, 72 to the point where it's, yeah, no. I'm the only family he's got left for the most part. That, and on top of that, yeah, I've actually been hydrating. Be right back. And yeah, I still haven't made a be right back screen either. Gotta do that at some point. Oh, like, 10. Hey, caramba. Distracted by the cats. Go up and the little furry things actually... Typical routine. Attention. Figured needed to actually check their food and water while I was at it. And yeah, I'm more of a cat person than a dog person. Don't get me wrong, I love dogs. But I'm not a fan of the whole having to actually go out in the middle of the night. Or, you know, rain coming down. If I only had a brain, I would have instead just, beep. All that fighting I did earlier, I don't even need to. Yeah, I've got 4 kittens inside now. Well, to me, they're actually a kitten until they're like 2 years old mentally. The eldest is 9 months now. The youngest, 6 months. Bless it, Joel. Yeah, outside is a different story. Outside, I don't know how many cats actually more or less adopted me. Oh no, that's whenever I'm playing Mario Kart with Dad. Because the amount of stuff that I've got down on the lower level, I don't leave the kittens down here. Because I kind of have a massive board game collection to the point where I don't want to find out they've actually been using the boxes as a scratching post. Not to mention also, I don't need them getting to the 3D printers or these wargaming miniatures. So, on top of that, they keep Dad company. He's got where, when our last cat died, yeah, we went, I think it was 5 months without any cats in the house. Then eventually he admitted to himself that he missed having cats. But whenever I'm up there playing Mario Kart with him, because even though he's 72, he still likes to play Mario Kart. Yeah, all 4 of them are on the couch with me. I literally have one lying on the chest, one in between my legs, one at my feet, and typically the one is actually on the back of the couch, right above my head. Yeah, if anything, gotta love the critters. The one makes life a little interesting, though, because she's one of those that for some odd reason has an obsession with riding on your shoulders. And me having broad shoulders, it's got to be the right shoulder, but she'll actually climb up my right shoulder, walk along behind my neck on my back, and then just lay on my left shoulder and literally plop her stomach. Yeah, I think it was in either Bessa's or Stitch's Discord I put those pictures in. I really don't mind it all that much. It gives Dad a laugh also. And the kitten's happy, so I can't fault her for it. And that support is further away than I thought it would be. Yep, that's not gonna work. Okay, we need to play Spider real quick. Because thinking about it, I'm going to end up blocking off this support here soon. Yeah, didn't know they had a term for it. Yeah, it's a fuzzy parrot to me. Yeah, if anything, the luck also actually kicks where typically we ended up getting cats. Because it's something I used to call as the cat curse. To me, it's more like a cat cycle now. Where anytime someone would die or it seemed like one of the cats was going to die, well, for some odd reason, a new cat would come into our lives. It's the timing had always been weird. Okay. So that's not really an Allen there. That should print fine there. To me, it's a little depressing, but at the same time, I see it more as they're just making sure the body count stays the same. I mean, it's kind of weird because literally it was happening with like when family members would die also. Oh, you stupid thing. If you know it's an issue. Yeah, I don't like when it does that. It's literally arcing it around. Positions you gotta get into in order to actually get to that. Yeah, that piece there is actually got where those didn't need supported there. Yeah, personally, I'm trying to make sure this thing is done tonight. That way, tomorrow morning, I can try test printing it. It's like there was another model I had an issue with, but they gave me the light sheet files. Whenever they sent the files, so it made it easy to fix. They take me to the watch. Okay, is that... Looks to me like that's going to be fine there. But this freaking... Okay, that one's printing on thin air. As well as that. So we're going to take and do that. And by the way, in case you're wondering, I do the headphones, that way I can listen to the audio without it getting recorded with the mic. Every now and then I have people ask about it, and I just, out of habit, I'll point it out. Makes it easier on that one. I did have another streamer stream going in the background, but I guess they actually cut off stream finally. I really need to check on them though. They're having job issues and it's Well, night Jimmy, thanks for popping in. If anything, don't know what time it is there, but it's actually 11:36 here. Should be done this soon anyways. This time. Okay, so you're Eastern time. Huh. Yeah, I don't know where you're at. I'm actually in West Virginia on the East Coast. Oh, that is going to be a pain to get to. Jackpot. Oh, you stupid thing. Okay. I had to take care of something. really. And jackpot. Oh, hello, ma'am. Let me move those out of the way. From me, away from me. Music. Away from me, away from me. Over here. Heard this one before. It's been a while though. I think that is actually all we needed. I already know I'd have people complaining that that's more supports than they'd like to see, but I like to make sure the supports are done good enough. Because even though this is a waste to people, to me it's a waste even more to not have the supports done, where instead you get extra failures. I mean, we're gonna take and never heard this one before. Okay. So last freaking tower. And Dalila is done. It looks like to me. Oh. Okay, so that's at least faster than what I'd been doing lately. And yeah, I didn't make it to Maz Mini's model again, but that'll be tomorrow. So file export as. And if it turns out this works, then it's gonna end up going to our Estudio. That way, what'll happen is anyone else that needs it, they'll have it. Ay, caramba. Okay, so with that, anyone that watches the VODs, thank you for checking it out. Congratulations. You might have seen something that you actually hadn't seen before when it comes to supporting STL files, or learned a little something from me rambling. I can do that proficiently. Don't forget, if you've ever been curious what I've been listening to, the song title's actually at the bottom of the screen. Tonight, decided to do an Offspring night. You're not going to hear it on the VOD, but with that being said, goes in brackets. Let's set up a raid. If anything, I've got where I hadn't done this in the past, so. Nope, can't do it. She's not on now. Daggone it. She literally just got off. Alright, let's go to this little bit of chaos. If anything, y'all are familiar with him anyways. I'm gonna bounce everyone to Aeon. He's currently streaming with Zeta Redux, playing Elden Ring again. See if I've done it right. It's been a while. Technically, if anything, it's been the first time I've actually done this in ages. Y'all have a good one. Thank you for watching. Oh, you stupid piece of junk. Well, thanks for watching again. Y'all have a good one.